on taking Apple devices with me when I studied abroad in South Africa, January to June 2012. It's a number of years later. It's Sunday, 25 January 2026, and here I, Tanis Coralee of Seattle, reflect on taking Apple devices with me when I studied abroad in South Africa, 6-month student visa, January to June 2012. So I was studying in Africa, and I had a suite of Apple products. I had an iPhone or iPhone 3, an iPhone. I had a small, like, little iPod Nano type thing that was like, you know, this big, and you press play, and there were like a fast forward and a rewind, and or and then like a play / pause. There weren't in like a menu or something like. And then I had a MacBook Air, my laptop that I bought, before I went to Africa. And I went to Africa with those devices, and the phone, so what happened with them? So I used my computer for the duration of my visit. It was my high school had a laptop program where we each had a MacBook laptop that we get signed out and then sign back in at the end of the year. And so I was familiar with Mac laptops, Apple laptops, and I got to Africa and they had a computer lab, and part of how the campus was set up is to use internet, had to set up a VPN, and so they had kind of a space where we could go and get that set up on our computers. And I remember going in to get that set up and like pulling out my MacBook Air, and me being the only person in the entire room, and there were like computers and like it was like a full computer room, like it was a big computer lab, and I was the only person with the Mac, and I was like, oh! And like everybody just looked, and I was like, all right, so I won't be using this that much in public, because I've gone through this international student orientation, and they were like, if you have valuables, perhaps like safeguard them. They will know, like, all you have to do is open your mouth and speak, and they'll know you're international. And there is an assumption that if you're here and you're an international student, you might have more money than some of the other people, whether or not that's true. And so I was like, in addition to holding my tongue, I was like holding my device, or like if I'm sitting somewhere like kind of hunched down. So the rest of my time in Africa was I kind of became very strategic at like hiding the Apple. This isn't that computer, but like making sure that like the brand, I would like sit low, and I would like, I was a lifeguard before I went there, and like part of being a lifeguard is scanning the pool for anything, that could be wrong. I was scanning to hide my Mac computer. It was a very life-altering experience. And it was for the entire time that I was there, once I pulled that out initially in the computer lab. So that was the laptop. The phone, so I had like something happened with like roaming, and it was like, oh, turn it off. And so like I turned it off, and I got a small little flip phone with a South African brand. Was it a South African brand? Something like that. A South African setup. I got a phone and phone plan I bought in Africa itself. So I didn't actually use my iPhone. Once there was that initial flare up, and I had thought about using it, and I took it out on the street once, and I like pulled it out, and like everybody went, it was like the laptop only with the iPhone. And I was like, all right, so like iPhones were relatively well known compared to the laptops in Africa, but it was still like, woo, and I was like, so this is gonna be, I kept it in my closet where they recommended us chaining our closet shut, so I had a chain bicycle lock that I put around my closet doors, like the handles, and so my iPod was locked up every time I left my room. Yep. And then the third one was my music device, my iPod Nano or whatever. I've mentioned it before. I don't actually know if it was a Nano. It was something small. And that is one that I used in my running training. And like really with the other reactions, and I was like, but see, I was like not yet committed to the putting it in a bag, like a little baggie like I am now, for if it rains and I take my device out on a run or walk run. So what I did with that one is I would actually tuck it in my sleeve when I was out on so I would either hold it in my hand, or I would, like, if it was raining, I would, like, kind of hold it strategically in my sleeve, like, even if it's, like, pulling the sleeve over my hand so it wouldn't get wet. So that also made it did not draw attention to myself, and other people had bigger MP3 players, if I'm recalling correctly. So other people got the attention on their music device, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I love blank blank, and I'm like, oh, what's my other stuff, man? I'm not, yeah, I answer all those questions. I'm just gonna try and be obscure over here. And so it was a very memorable, like, and so those are the Apples things, but I also had, like, a pair of orange Nike shoes, and I was walking down the street one day, and to get to the other room, and these people in this car, and I'm walking with my friend, and they pull over to the side of the road, and we're like, oh. They're like, are you American? To me. And I was like, we could tell by the shoes, right? I was like, yeah. So there we go. That one was a bonus. So that's on taking Apple devices with me when I studied abroad in South Africa, January to June 2012.